Coming up on F1 24/7 this week, Carlos Sainz extends his Ferrari contract, Alpine are looking to loan out Oscar Piastri, what race could be replacing the Russian Grand Prix, and is Grosjean still going to do his Mercedes test? So Carlos Sainz has extended his Ferrari contract until the end of 2024. The Spaniard joined Ferrari in 2021, replacing Sebastian Vettel, and signed his contract until the end of 2022. The Spaniard has had a really good start to the season, currently in third place on 31 points, in what has been a very impressive start for the Scuderia. Mattia Binotto sat down with Sky Sports and said this: "I have said several times that I believe that we have the best driver pairing in Formula 1, and so with every passing race, it seemed a completely natural step to extend Carlos's contract." Carlos Sainz added, "I have always said that there is no better Formula 1 team to race for. After over a year with them, I can confirm that putting on the race suit and representing the team is unique and incomparable. I feel strengthened by this renewed show of confidence in me. I can't wait to get in the car to do my best for Ferrari and to give its fans plenty to cheer about." So Carlos Sainz is staying at Ferrari for another 2 years. But leading up to this announcement, there were some rumours they had failed to agree terms with Ferrari. Now that statement isn't anything new to Formula 1 fans. Just before the start of 2020, Sebastian Vettel was in the exact same boat, apparently so, when it was announced that he had failed to agree terms with Ferrari. Also, Vettel wanted a longer contract, Ferrari offered him a shorter contract, in exactly the same circumstances that was rumoured about Ferrari and Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz said he wanted a 2-year deal, Ferrari offered him a 1-year deal. And there was all sorts of, floating around rumours. And then when Vettel announced he was leaving, joined Aston Martin, then it later came out that Ferrari had never offered him a contract at all. So when I heard this rumour, and apparently the talks had stalled, I'm going, okay, then I don't know how to take this. Is this true? Is this not true? And where do we stand on all this? But literally a day later, all that was rubbish, and Carlos Sainz has officially signed a brand new deal. And I think that just sort of calms everything down at this early stage of silly season. And is it the right thing to do so? Well, I would say absolutely. Because Ferrari, at this moment in time, you can clearly see are in a championship fight. Charles Leclerc leads the Drivers' Championship and Ferrari lead the Constructors. So for them to tie down, well, we already know Charles Leclerc is going nowhere. I think he's got a contract till 2090, I don't know. It's something ridiculously long. I think it's like 2026, 2027. That he signed a further contract extension, not that long ago. And Carlos Sainz, his current deal is meant to run out at the end of this year. So tying him down for a couple of years means that they can sort of get away from that sort of speculation of, is Carlos Sainz going to leave and is another driver come and join Ferrari? I'll get onto that more in a little bit. And now they can sort of concentrate, that's all done now, only 4 rounds in, get their heads down, focus on winning the championship, and just leave and put everything to bed and just get on with the job. So is Carlos Sainz then the right driver that Ferrari need? Well, Mattia Binotto said there that he believes that they have got the best driver pairing on the grid. And I would agree with them, 100%. Charles Leclerc is a fantastic driver, a future world champion, definitely. I would say a future multiple world champion, definitely. And Carlos Sainz is one of the most underrated drivers on the grid. He gets praise every now and then, but it's not often he gets a lot of credit. And at this moment in time, all right, he is being he's being boasted by Charles Leclerc at this moment in time, but Carlos Sainz can do a decent job. Now, one driver we know is waiting in the wings is Mick Schumacher, and this was something that when these rumours were floating around that Carlos Sainz hasn't agreed a deal, that Ferrari offered him a 1-year deal, everyone was like, well, why are they offering him a 1-year deal? What are they waiting out for? What's going on with this? And then the name Mick Schumacher came into account that, well, Ferrari surely want Mick Schumacher in the Ferrari at some point in the future. But really, when I heard those, I was thinking, well, for me, Mick Schumacher hasn't done enough to earn a Ferrari seat. All right, 2021, he couldn't do much in that Haas anyway because it was so slow, it was so bad. And this year, well, it's very early stages. This is the first time Mick has got a competitive Formula 1 car, and he's going up against Kevin Magnussen, who is definitely better than Nikita Mazepin. And Mick Schumacher dominated Nikita Mazepin, which, to be fair, even Latifi could do that, in my opinion. But Kevin Magnussen is different gravy. He really is a different driver to Nikita Mazepin. He's more aggressive. He's quicker. He understands the car better, and of course he's been there before. So we need to really see Mick Schumacher at Haas or somewhere else for another couple of years for him to develop his skills even more so. Because I'm sort of classing this as his debut season in a way, because like I said, last year's car was just it was uncompetitive. It was just like, I guess it was just practicing a year in terms of understanding how an F1 team works. So this year he should be trying to get up to pace, challenging challenging Kevin Magnussen, getting up there with him, and then hopefully one day he will be in a Ferrari, which I think he will be. I do agree with everyone saying that he will be in a Ferrari one day. I do think that's the whole plan, but when, I don't know, because I would say 2024 for me at this moment in time is a bit too early, but like I said, it's still early days in the season. There's a long way to go, and Mick Schumacher could easily develop into a very consistent F1 driver. But at this moment in time, easy decision to sign Carlos Sainz. Good choice for Ferrari. Best driving pairing on the grid right now. Let me know your opinions on these in the comment section below. So next up then, Oscar Piastri, the current reigning Formula 2 world champion. Now, despite winning the F3 title at his first attempt and the F2 title at his first attempt, he was left without a Formula 1 seat for 2022. Now that shocked a lot of people, because normally if you win the F2 title or even the F3 title at the first attempt, which only two of the drivers off the top of my head have done so anyways, which was George Russell and Charles Leclerc. Both of them got an F1 seat within the season after they won the F2 title. Now the rule is in Formula 2, if you win the F2 title, you can't do the season again. So there was logic that Piastri, who is a very quick driver, one of those up-and-coming stars of motor racing, was going to get a Formula 1 seat. But there was one big problem. There was no seat. So Oscar Piastri is part of the Alpine Academy, and logically it would make loads more sense to put him straight in the Alpine in his first year, but they had Fernando Alonso returning from his sabbatical, you could say, for 2 years, going back to Alpine alongside Esteban Ocon. So there was no real seat there, and of course other seats were taken, everywhere on the other teams. So they had to put him in a reserve role. So Alpine CEO Laurent Rossi is interested in loaning out Oscar Piastri for the 2023 season, as long as he can come back to the team. And that's something that's not new in Formula 1. We've seen it before with other teams, like they've loaned out a driver to a certain team for a season, not just for a seat, a full-time seat, but it can be like a reserve role that can compete in loads of FP1 sessions, and then go back to get a full-time seat either elsewhere or with the team that they currently are with. So yeah, it comes as no surprise that that this has been considered an option for Oscar Piastri. But now the question remains, where does he go? So let's start then with Alpine themselves. Now, of course, the whole loaning out thing, he wouldn't be loaning out to Alpine because he's already part of Alpine. He's under contract there. He's a development driver. So one driver. So let's look at the two drivers at this moment in time: Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso. Esteban Ocon has got a multi-year deal. I think he's got another 2 or 3 years to go on his contract, and he's doing an okay job. So I can't really see him moving out of the way. And then I would say the logical option would be Fernando Alonso to then step out of his seat to make way for Oscar Piastri. His current contract is up at the end of the year, but after the Australian Grand Prix, Alonso said that he's expected to be racing in Formula 1 for another 2 to 3 years. Now that's not officially saying Alonso is going to be staying in Formula 1 for another 2 to 3 years. That's just Alonso saying that he could be racing for 2 to 3 years. He feels like he could be racing for 2 to 3 years. But who's to say that in a few races' time he might change his mind and might go, I'm going to step out of this seat, I might take a role upstairs, I might go as a development driver and give Oscar Piastri the seat. But knowing Fernando Alonso and knowing how much of a true racer he is, I don't think that's going to be an option. So I'm heavily expecting Alonso to sign another year or two deal with Alpine. So that crosses them out. So therefore we need to look at, the other teams on the grid as to where he could go. So the teams at the back, Williams, they've got Alexander Albon and Nicholas Latifi. I can't see Latifi making way simply because his dad has got a lot of, Michael Latifi I think he's called, has got a lot of investment at this moment in time with Williams. Of course he could get up and leave and take his money elsewhere, that's not out of the question. But there's no real rumours of that. There's no real indication that he could be walking away from Williams. So as long as Michael Latifi is investing in Williams, and of course part of that deal is for his son Nicholas to drive for the team, I can't see Latifi move it anytime soon. As for Albon, now Albon is part of this sort of loan thing with with like Red Bull in Williams, like something what was going on about with Oscar Piastri. Because he's still part of the Red Bull team, I think he is, but he's still got Red Bull branded on his helmet in a Mercedes powered team. It's really weird to see. So Albon might make way. He could then go back to AlphaTauri. He could go off to another team. It all depends what Red Bull want to do with him. So Williams for Oscar Piastri could be one of his options. Then you've got the likes of Haas and Alfa Romeo, which, again, I would say Mick, now Carlos Sainz has signed a new contract. I can't see Mick going off elsewhere. Of course, there is Alfa Romeo, but I'll get onto them in a bit. I would expect Mick to stay at Haas for another year or two. Kevin Magnussen, of course, he's just returned. He signed a multi-year deal, so I can't see any of them two moving. Alfa Romeo, they've just got Valtteri Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou, or Zhou Guan Yu, shall I say. I can't see any of them moving as well, and again, I can't see Mick coming over there because they've just signed Zhou Guan Yu, my bad. He's doing an okay job, but like you say, he's just getting into the rhythm of being a Formula 1 driver. Valtteri Bottas, one of the quickest on the grid, I would say. He's doing a fantastic job for Alfa Romeo. I can't see any of them moving way, so that sort of rules Alfa Romeo out. Aston Martin, Vettel's future is in doubt. There's rumours that he could be retiring. There's sort of everything's up in the air at this moment in time. Of course, Lawrence Stroll, he owns the team. He's the main guy in the consortium. And like with Williams and Latifi, his son Lance Stroll, he's not going to be moving there for a long time. So that rules that seat out. So Vettel's seat at Aston Martin, that could be an option. I can't see him going to AlphaTauri because obviously Red Bull academies, Red Bull will want to promote their young drivers in there. There's Gasly's seat, he's up for a contention. Is he going to be leaving? Is he going to be staying at AlphaTauri? I can't see him there next year, in my opinion. So maybe bring Alex Albon back to AlphaTauri and then put Oscar Piastri in the Williams. Or they could promote another young driver who they've got Yuri Vips, Liam Lawson, all those drivers in there that could potentially fill that AlphaTauri seat. And Tsunoda's going nowhere. I think he's a good driver. He deserves a seat in Formula 1, so I can't see him moving. And then the outsider teams, I can't see him going to the likes of Mercedes, Red Bull or Ferrari. That's just not going to happen at all. Another team that's on the outside is McLaren. Now, Piastri is an option for McLaren should one of their drivers contract get COVID in this year. Alpine have said you can have Oscar Piastri as your reserve driver, because I think McLaren I think they have got reserve drivers, but they haven't got anyone linked within the team, like in terms of young drivers coming up. So I think they've got Van Dorn linked in there somewhere. He could come back for a drive, and other drivers from other teams have said, all right, well, if we don't have a driver for this weekend for whatever reason, Lando, Daniel can't compete, we'll then bring in somebody else, and Oscar Piastri was one of those drivers. So if Norris, I know Norris has just signed a brand new lengthy contract, so I can't see him moving. Ricardo, I know he's going to be there next year, so he might decide to walk away early. Again, I really doubt that. So McLaren is like a 1% chance of happening. Something shocking will have to happen at McLaren for one of those drivers to leave at this moment in time. And then if that is an option, then I would say Piastri would definitely get that seat in McLaren, but that's unlikely, so I'm going to rule that one out. So that realistically leaves just Williams and Aston Martin as your two choices, which, who do you take at this moment in time? God, of course, next year is next year, and both teams might have made huge developments, but pure Piastri will be looking at that going, I don't know. I don't know who to get. I don't know. I mean, so a new team might join next year, but I heavily doubt that. So you could say that, I would say there's three options. Well, two options if they want to loan him out. I would say Aston Martin and Williams, and the main one being, Alpine if Alonso decides to leave. So I'm going to have a guess, and I might say I might go for Aston Martin. I'm going to go have a little prediction. I'll say Piastri to Aston Martin for a year or two. Vettel might call it a day. It might go elsewhere. I don't know. I might do a video on this later on down the line. So yeah, I'll leave it up to you guys then. Leave your suggestions in the comment section below. Where will Oscar Piastri end up in 2023? So next up, there's a potential replacement for the Russian Grand Prix. The race in Sochi was meant to take place on the 25th of September. But with Russia invading Ukraine and Russian, sporting events and sport athletes and everything just sort of, was cancelled and banned. And of course, inevitably, the Russian Grand Prix was dropped from the F1 calendar, which of course meant that there's a gap in the F1 calendar. Now, Russia was meant to be part of a triple header with Singapore and Japan, But now there's talks that there could be not one, but 2 races at Marina Bay. Now F1 is looking at that as an option because they said that it would be easier for freight because everyone is already there. Have 2 races there, requires nobody to move for a couple of weeks, and then it can go straight off to Japan the week after. And there will be no need to change times because they can already retain their usual 8 p.m. start, local time that is. And the track is already built anyway, so they may as well just use it. And they've said that there will be no more traffic disruptions over in Singapore. Because if you didn't know this already, that Singapore Grand Prix is contested on the streets of Singapore, just in case, any new F1 fans out there who don't quite know what the Singapore Grand Prix is or whereabouts it is. So F1 is looking at that as a potential option. 2 Singapore Grand Prix, I wouldn't mind that, to be fair. I don't mind Singapore. I think it can throw up a very good Grand Prix. It's one of those tracks where it is quite difficult to overtake, maybe more so. It is more overtaking opportunities than there is, let's say, at Monaco, but it's one of those races. I don't hate it, but I don't love it, if you know what I mean. I don't mind it at all. And the fact that we haven't been there since 2019 sort of shows that maybe having 2 races could, just have a bit of a catch-up plan on Singapore. But there's also another option that F1 are considering if they can't do that, and can't agree with the authorities over in Singapore, is going back to Qatar. Now Qatar is joining the F1 calendar for real in 2023 and has signed a 10-year deal. And if you remember last year, Formula 1 went there for the very first time in 2021 towards the end of the season in its sort of new makeshift calendar because a few races got cancelled because of COVID. The outbreak in other countries was more severe than it was in other countries. So places like Singapore and Japan were dropped from the calendar, and races like Qatar was ultimately added, and that's when they announced that it would be coming to the calendar for real in 2023 with a 10-year contract. So F1 is eyeing up that potential option of having a race in Qatar. I don't know whereabouts it would be, whether it would be at the place we were last year, which was the MotoGP circuit, or whether it would go to its new location. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but where F1 raced at last year, it will not be its proper venue for the Qatar Grand Prix. I think they're going to be building a new track, or there already is a track ready for Formula 1, I don't know. But I think they could be going back to the MotoGP circuit if they are going to be building a new circuit. So of course it won't be ready in time. But the problem with that is if the hell's at the end of September, usually it gets very, very hot over in Qatar. So temperatures is apparently up to 35 to 40 degrees, which I would say is beyond anything Formula 1 drivers can do. I think the limit has to be the Singapore Grand Prix because it's a long enduring track. It is at night like it would be in Qatar, but the temperatures are like sweltering hot. Won't be as bad as what it is in Qatar, but F1 drivers normally, they're sweating buckets there. Sometimes they feel a bit nauseous, and worse still, if their drink bottle doesn't work, you could say it's more like game over, which has happened before and has left some drivers, like I say, with nausea and dizziness after a Grand Prix. So it's very, very dangerous if that could happen. And if it does happen over in Qatar, and a driver's bottle doesn't work, a water bottle doesn't work, they're in big trouble. So I would say it is quite dangerous. That could be a last resort, like I said, if they can't do anything with Singapore. But if they can't do anything with Singapore and they can only have one Grand Prix there, I would just say leave it at that. Leave it at that. Don't need a second race there. Just have a week off, go to Singapore, then go straight to Japan afterwards. So yeah, what do you think about that? Do you think F1 should have 2 races in Singapore? Do you think F1 should go to Qatar afterwards instead? Or do you think they should just leave it, have a week off, and just have the back-to-back race with Singapore and Japan? Let me know in the comment section below. And finally, onto a story that you might have forgotten about. So cast your mind back then to the start of the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix, where Romain Grosjean had his horrific accident where he went into the barrier, his car sliced in half, or just teared in half, and his car went up in flames. Now this is for all F1 fans to see, and it was a very, very scary accident because we all thought the worst had happened to Romain Grosjean. Given how big the fire was, the fact that we didn't see Grosjean at all come out of that fire, and how long the camera cut away from the accident, and we were all left fearing the worst for Grosjean in a way. But thankfully, he got out of the fire and suffered, I would say, quite a bit of burn on his hands and on other parts of his body as well. But luckily, he was to walk away from that accident alive. Now, because of how severe his burns were to his hands, he wasn't able to do this final 2 rounds, the other one in Bahrain and of course the one at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So Grosjean's final outing in Formula 1 would be remembered as that huge fireball accident he had at Bahrain. Now, shortly after speaking out about his accident and what he did and how he was feeling at the time, Toto Wolff, Mercedes team principal, said that he could give Grosjean a test in the Mercedes at some point in the foreseeable future. Now, that test was meant to take place at the 2021 French Grand Prix. Now, at the time, Grosjean was competing over in IndyCar and there was COVID protocols going on at the time at the French Grand Prix, so therefore there was never an opportunity for Grosjean and Mercedes to do the test. Now, since then, it went a bit quiet, but recently Toto Wolff has spoken up about it when he was briefly reminded of it, and he basically said, "When I give my word, I give my word." So Romain Grosjean sent a message to Toto Wolff shortly after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and Toto Wolff replied and said, yes, we will get it done at some point in 2022. Of course, it could have been easily the French Grand Prix once again this year at the 2022 running, but Grosjean is racing in Iowa with IndyCar, so of course he can't be doing it that weekend. So I think there will be an opportunity for at a Grand Prix within the European season. You know, you've got races like Austria, Silverstone, Hungary, Belgium, Italy. So many opportunities that Grosjean could come along and be able to do this test. And I think a lot of people were actually quite excited about this because, like I said, ever since that accident, everyone sort of went, I do want to see Grosjean in the F1 car again, and many people wanted him to retain his seat for Haas in 2021 for the fact that everyone did remember him for his last outing being that fireball accident he had at Bahrain. So there is still a few things to iron out with them. Of course, they haven't officially confirmed where that test is going to be, but hopefully it will be soon and we will get to see Romain Grosjean in that Mercedes that I think we all deserve to see. But guys, thank you so much for watching this week's F1 24/7. Really do appreciate it. Enjoying being back. Loving making the videos once again. Should have more videos coming next week as well. I've got more, quite a few videos actually lined up that I've written plans for that I've just got, ready to go within the next few weeks. So definitely excited to be getting them ready up and running. I was meant to do the debate show this week, but I didn't get the time to do so. I've got a plan in place, so there will be one next week as well as an F1 24/7. But guys, thank you so much for watching as always. Oh, and before I go as well, like I always do with F1 24/7, all the links to the articles I've used in today's video will be in the description below. And of course, I will give a link to everyone's Twitter. If I can find it, that is. I think there was one on last week's that I couldn't find his Twitter because there was no name on the article. If I can find the person that did write that article, I will leave a link to their Twitter in the description so you can go and give them a follow as well and give them, the credit that they deserve. But guys, thank you so much, and as always, if you have enjoyed the video, please drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, I'll see you all later. Bye bye.